Welcome everybody back to the TheDomCast, episode 32, where slowly but surely NBA news, NBA games, the NBA season itself is slowly but surely seeping its way back into your life, thank God. Like, no, we actually have real NBA news to talk about, real concrete games, real events. I am recording this on a Friday morning, so damn, it seems like I was just here because last week's schedule forced me to record on Sunday, very close together to a podcast, but I am more than happy to do it. We got Shaq and Damian Lillard's rap battle, which I actually want to talk about because that is something that I considered making a video about. I just didn't think it was anything that was going to have mass appeal to my audience, so I figured I would slap that in here. There is a preseason game in approximately 1 hour that I'm gonna watch. It is between the Pacers and the Kings, and I gotta say, I like this. Games happening in the morning, this is awesome. Like, I just woke up, rolled over a bit, looked at the Game Time app, saw the Rockets and Clippers played at 1 a.m., which I thankfully missed. Then at 9:30 we'll get Kings and Pacers. This would just be awesome for the pacing of my day if it was an actual thing, but that game is happening in India, so of course we get nothing like that in the regular NBA season. People at school and stuff, attendance would be shit, but it is cool for the time being. And then we got a bunch of other good stuff to talk about as usual. So starting with the preseason, only a couple of things to talk about here. First of all, thank God I did not stay up for the Rockets and Clippers as I planned. Meaning that I am on the East Coast, that game took place at 1 a.m. Eastern time. I was up until about 12 and I just could not make it until 1. I wasn't even in the mood to play video games or anything last night, so that would have probably kept me up, that would have took me there, but I'm glad that I didn't because I did not even know that Kawhi Leonard was not playing. And I already knew PG wasn't playing. Paul George is going to miss the entire preseason. He is not going to play till November if you have not heard. That is when he is targeting his return. But I didn't know that Kawhi wasn't going to play. And I already knew Westbrook wasn't playing. That's what I found out when I tried to sit through the Rockets and Sharks game. The Shanghai Sharks, that was the first preseason game that happened at the beginning of this week, and I made it through 2 quarters. I just couldn't do it anymore, bro. I could not do anymore. Clint Capella looked like a track star. The Sharks looked like they didn't want to be there. There's just nothing you can tell from a game between a professional team and the Shanghai Sharks. There's nothing there because it was almost like they were giving no effort. They knew they were outmatched. The only thing that came from that game is Harden debuting his new move that he worked on all summer. And if you keep up with summer training videos and you keep up with Instagram basketball in general, you have seen it. It is basically the Euro step 3-pointer from NBA 2K13. How crazy is that it's a move that a player is now actually practicing and is now probably going to bring into NBA game. I had people telling me that, oh, it's just the Shanghai Sharks and this can't really even be counted as a game. Yes, I know that, obviously. Obviously, he's going to look superior. Obviously, things are going to be easier. But this is James Harden we're talking about. He is probably the craftiest player in today's NBA. I don't think he spent all summer working on this move and showing this move on camera and then trying it in the first preseason game just to let it die during the season. I think he's going to try it sometimes. I think he's going to try it. I think the fact that it's one of the first shots that he took shows that he's going to be trying it. And, you know, it's just interesting. People get on him for it. People already dislike Harden. They dislike the way he plays. But, you know, you have to give him credit for just trying to be innovative. Trying to add something to his bag every summer. Because every player doesn't do that. Every player is not dedicated to the game of basketball like that. For instance, if you guys hadn't heard, James Johnson, the Miami Heat player, he was basically exiled from Miami Heat the start of their training camp because he did not come in the standards that Pat Riley had set. So they had conditioning standards that they set. James Johnson did not meet them, so he's going to miss the start of camp. He's not allowed to participate because he's not in shape. The most basic thing for an NBA player, right? The team sends you home for the summer and they give you a list and they say, this is what you need to be when you come back to camp. Just conditioning regimens. You've got all summer to work on that type of thing. And that's like the most basic thing a team can set. So you've got players not matching the basics on one hand, and then you got players trying to change the game of basketball on the other. So I am definitely amongst just trying to see what Westbrook and Harden actually look like this season. I'm going to try to be seeing if Harden is going to be using that move. I think a lot of people in the thread were questioning, is it practical? Like, does this move actually have a use? And from what I can tell, I mean, it looks like it creates space. Hey, just like in a Euro step, when people Euro step, they're trying to get past the defender, they're trying to get a clear path to the rim. When James Harden is in triple threat position and he uses that move, he steps away from the defender and lets it fly. That does give him space for a 3-pointer. I don't really see, it looks stupid, it looks funny. It looks like, you know, why would you try this in a professional basketball game? But hey, I'm pretty sure that's what people thought in like the 60s. And, you know, back when it wasn't popular to cross over the ball and put it under your legs and stuff like that. This is how innovation happens. And then I was telling my friend last night, I was like, look, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are on the same team now. This motherfucker has to try something. You gotta try something, right? You gotta come up with something. Because these are the two best defenders in the league, and if they already have your number and they have your scouting report and nothing new is in your bag from season to season, well, then you're already done for. So at least he's trying something. Be on the lookout for Harden's Euro step 3-pointer, and be on the lookout in your local gym for people to be trying that. I know once Steph Curry brought in this 3-point revolution, throughout the 2010s, games that you would sit through, pickup games at LA Fitness and at school, they just became straight 3-point shots. So be on the lookout for the Euro step 3-pointer at your local gym. And yeah, that's pretty much the only preseason news so far. You know, I'm always excited for the preseason to come back just to have some basketball. Like, as you can tell, I'm about to watch the Kings and the Pacers play, and Oladipo obviously is not playing. Don't even have the slightest clue when he's coming back yet. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to see some basketball. But I understand that the preseason kind of sucks because of what you saw with the game last night. You know, no Kawhi Leonard, no Russell Westbrook. And both of them are fine to play from what I know. With Westbrook, they're just being cautious because he had his knees cleaned out this summer, so they just want to make sure he's 100% ready to go. The season and the playoffs is way more important than preseason to them, so they don't care who paid to get into these games. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, the thing with his quad is not just gone. As far as I know, that's like a condition that he just lives and plays with that's always kind of there. So the Clippers want to protect their asset, especially being the Clippers franchise going, hunting for their first NBA championship. They want to protect all their assets as best as they can. They give a damn if Kawhi and PG, how much time they miss, right? The important thing is that they're there for the playoffs. So for that reason, the preseason is probably going to kind of suck. By the time we get to the end of it, it's most likely going to be like bench players. I remember last year's was really bad. It's probably going to be the same thing now, but hey man, whatever. I'm just happy basketball is back. Speaking of basketball being back, before Damian Lillard headed into camp or practice or wherever he was going, he and Shaq got into a rap battle, and this was entertaining from just multiple angles. It was entertaining just from them two. That's the first thing. And then people's reactions, right? Because the amount of people that have no clue about rap battles is astounding. And I get it, right? I get it. Rap battles are not like a super popular thing, I guess. I don't know the amount of people that follow me that watch King of the Dot and URL and all the other rap battle leagues. Like, that's an actual thing. You have actual rap battle leagues with people on the roster and all types of battles that happen and events that happen. And I've been keeping up with battle rap for years, so all those leagues, I keep up with all those, keep up with all the battle rappers, watch battles all the time. So watching people's evaluation of this thing between Shaq and Lillard was just hilarious because, first of all, I didn't know anybody actually thought Shaq won. I had no clue anybody thought Shaq won this battle. And I listened to both even though I love Damian Lillard as a rapper, I think he's better than some rappers that, it's their job to just rap, right? He's a ball player that raps, and he's better than a lot of people whose job it is to just rap. So I love his music, but I was listening with a very unbiased ear. I sound like I was rooting for anybody. I just thought this shit was awesome. When I first heard that they had made diss tracks for each other, first of all, I was just like, why? Where did this even come from? I didn't know that Damian Lillard had supposedly told Joe Budden that, or it was on, I guess, like an interview or something like that. And Lillard said that he was a better rapper than Shaq. I don't even know how long ago that was, but apparently it took Shaq all this time to respond. And let's just go through this for a second, okay? First of all, Shaq's his diss track, right? His diss track to Lillard, it sounds like he recorded it in a bathroom on his phone. He's 1 point down already. He's already down a point. The production on that track was garbage, especially for the amount of time that it took. When I first listened to it on YouTube, I thought I caught like a bootleg version that somebody had to download and it just came out trash or something like that. But no, that's just the actual track. So yeah, he's already down right there. And then you listen to the actual substance of the diss track, and here's the most common evaluation I saw from people that said Shaq won, right? They said that, oh, Damian Lillard said Kobe carried Shaq the ring, so he lost. Oh my god, biggest face palm fucking ever. That's how you could tell some of these people don't watch any type of rap battles. They don't keep up with this at all. They don't understand rap battles. I was like, okay, it's alright for Damian Lillard, it's alright for Shaquille O'Neal to tell Damian Lillard, who's a premier point guard and has been a star in our league for a long time now. It's alright for Shaq to go, oh, you're not even Trevor Ariza. That's obviously a reach. That's obviously not true. But then it's not okay for Damian Lillard to bring up the whole Kobe and Shaq dispute, because we know that's like a long-running dispute in the media, not between them, but it's like a long-running spat that has been talked about and all that. And it's alright. It's not alright for Lillard to bring that up and say that Kobe carried him just as a jab at Shaq. That is how rap battles work. Both of them reached right there. Both of them said something that was untrue. but they were just both jabs, right? That's how rap battles work sometimes. Exaggeration is a part of it. But it's like people just shut down right there, and it's like one of two things. Either they don't understand rap battles at all, or they come from that crew that hates Kobe, and every like 2 days they're parroting the same points about Shaq carrying him. It's one of those two things right there. If you listen to the actual substance, Lillard had bars for this man. Lillard had bars and wordplay that would suffice in actual rap battles today. The wordplay about his car not needing diesel and about Cleveland not needing him and winning on the strength of Flash. Just go listen to it, go read the lyrics. I'm not about to recite everything right here. One really hard hit Lillard had was because in Shaq's diss track, all he was really talking about is how he has more money than him, more accolades and whatever. And Lillard fired back with all the money in the world, but they traded you for Penny. That shit was so hard. And again, I saw somebody on Twitter, oh well, actually Shaq wasn't traded for Penny. Well, not even talking about the exaggeration part that I just brought up that is sometimes a part of battle rap. What Lillard is referencing right there is the fact that the Magic did not want to pay Shaquille O'Neal what he thought he was worth because they wanted to have some money for Penny Hardaway. That's a very well-known thing if you study the Shaq situation and how he left Orlando. That's what Lillard was referencing. He's not literally saying that they traded him for Penny Hardaway. That was a hard fucking bar. So Lillard had bars like that, and Shaq's was more like, yeah, you know, you're not Curry, no MVPs and all that. Look, Shaq had some good stuff, right? Before Lillard's diss track came out, Shaq had some good stuff. It was like, wow, he came for him kind of hard. It was like good Shaq stuff, right? Because we know that Shaq is a character. We know he's an actor. So like when we heard the diss track, it was like, okay, Shaq, I feel you. And then Lillard came out. Not the whole time I was in my car listening to it, because I was on the way back from the barbershop. And the whole time I'm in my car listening to it, I had that, you know that Listerine face you make, like when you're gargling Listerine or you're swishing around Listerine and it burns and you make that face. That's the face I had the whole time listening to Lillard's track. That was the difference between he and Shaq. Shaq had that, yeah, this is cool for Shaq, he's rapping again type stuff. And Lillard had that Listerine face type stuff. That's the main difference. Lillard won that battle. If this was being scored, Lillard definitely had more bars than him. I had no clue anybody thought Shaq won. And then the most common thing I saw was, oh, he wasn't carried by Kobe. Again, one of two categories. You don't understand rap battles at all, or you're constantly on the internet and Kobe and Shaq debates talking about Shaq carried Kobe. It's one of those two. So yeah, let's hope for Shaq's sake that he just sits this one out. I cannot wait to see how Charles Barkley brings this up in every TNT segment. They should start the first TNT segment playing Lillard's track. Yeah, Shaq is not a better rapper than Lillard. I know Shaq has his tracks from, you know, back in the day or whatever. He is not better. He's not a better rapper than Lillard, and that's okay. Most people are not better rappers than Lillard. That's just the way it is. The man was born with many talents. He's a great hooper and a great rapper. Some people come to this planet and they have all the talent in the world, and some people come to this planet and they just don't have any fucking talent. That's just the way it seems. If Shaq and Lillard is your introduction to any type of battle rap, that's okay because it showed in your evaluation. That's fine though. Go watch some, right? Battle rap is an actual, I mean, I don't want to say sport, but it's an actual thing, right? And it gets disrespectful, it gets crazy, and it gets talented, man. These people who do rap battles, and I actually, I'm not friends with one, but we follow each other on Twitter. It's a guy that he's like up and coming in battle rap, and I've watched some of his stuff, and like even someone like him who hasn't technically made it into like the star tier yet, you go listen to some of his stuff and it just takes a crazy amount of preparation, and it just takes a certain type of person to be able to participate in that in live rap battles. I'm talking about the ones that are 3 rounds and like how many ever minutes per round. That stuff is crazy, and I have a lot of respect for those dudes. So yeah, if you're not into it, if Shaq and Lillard was your first thing and you think that Lillard lost because he said something that wasn't necessarily factual, but then somehow proceeded to ignore Shaq saying the Ariza thing, that's where I said those were the people who are on the Shaq carry Kobe train. Because I don't know how you just accept the Ariza bar but then don't accept the Kobe bar. I don't get that part. But if you're one of those, man, get into battle rap. Shit is like it goes up notches from where Lillard and Shaq are right now, where they were with these tracks. It goes up notches. It gets crazy. I started off in rap battles in like 2014, 2015, and I started watching Arsenal. So, but there's plenty. There's plenty better than Arsenal. That's just probably a good place to start because he's very entertaining. But then, you know, the bars get way more complex as you move on to people like Joe Nye, and just do it. King of the Dot and URL. You know, type that in your browser. Get into rap battles, and then come back and evaluate Shaq and Lillard. There is actually some more NBA news because obviously all the media days have happened, a bunch of interviews has happened. So yeah, there are some more stories here. One that just popped into my head, Derrick Rose joining the Pistons to win the NBA championship. Yes, in his interviews, and I guess it was probably just one interview, he basically talked about how he's done everything and he has the only accolade that he's missing, he feels, is an NBA championship. And so that's his goal with the Detroit Pistons, is an NBA championship. And look, I still admire D Rose. I admire everything he's gone through, and to still be playing basketball going into the 2020 season, even though he tore his ACL in 2012 and has been through hell ever since. Hey man, I love that. I just don't know what it is about Detroit that has these guys talking crazy. I don't, because there's a tidbit that I cannot find on the internet. I hate when this happens, right? When there's something I know I watched or that just something I know I remember from the NBA, but like record of it does not exist on the interwebs anywhere. Like I was watching a Pistons game one time and the announcer was saying that Rodney Stuckey was going to be the next Dwayne Wade, but I can't find that broadcast anywhere. I cannot find it. Anyways, that's besides the point. When Tracy McGrady signed with the Detroit Pistons, that was one of his last teams. That was when he was like way past his prime. He had a direct quote, and he said that he was going to do everything in his power to bring Detroit a championship. And that was back in, what year was that? That was like 2K13. No, that was not 13. That was a little bit earlier than that. I played with the Knicks in 2010, so this was probably around like 2011, I guess. Very early 2010s, and he says that. And I remember I was like, you know, you guys know I'm a big T-Mac fan. That's how I started. That's how I got my start in watching basketball. So I supported him that year. I think he had like a 30-point game. And me and my friend, who were like the last two T-Mac fans on earth, because we were getting ready for school, we used to have to get up at like 6 in the morning. And I remember we texted each other. We were like, damn, bro, T-Mac is back. He scored 30 last night. So we were those type of fans. So when he said that about the championship, I was like, yeah, okay, like I don't see it. That's back in the early 2010s again, the Pistons, as they had lost everything by then, so I didn't know where he was getting that from, and it's kind of like now. I mean, Blake Griffin just came off of his best season in the league. He's not high flying all the time anymore and grabbing the back of people's heads and yamming it, but he's technically a better basketball player than he ever has been. D Rose just came off of what I guess would be considered his best year since all these injuries. But yeah, and I get that the NBA is wide open right now, but there's no championship aspirations in Detroit. There's just not. They're not a better team than Philly. They're not close to being a better team than the Bucks. Like, just no. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess the question becomes with D Rose, like, what do you want him to say? But I think he volunteered that information. I don't think someone asked him if a championship was in his aspirations. I don't think that was a question. I think that's information that he volunteered. If he was asked that, then forgive me, then this makes sense. But I really, from what I saw and read, I don't think he was asked that question. If his aspirations was an NBA championship, he should have sucked out a contract with a contending team like the Lakers or the Clippers. He could have, but you know, the thing is, I think that goes back in a couple of years ago when I thought his career was over. I used to say, like, I didn't know who would sign him, and I definitely didn't think a contending team would sign him, because if you're a contending team, you have to depend on this guy as you get deeper into the playoffs. And although D Rose just had an awesome year, you just never know with him. You never know when an ankle is gonna go. His season ended last year because of an elbow procedure, didn't it? That's a very little known fact, but he had something going on with his elbow, so he kind of didn't play. But the Timberwolves were out of any kind of running, so I don't think anybody noticed. But if you're a contending team, those are the things you notice, because what if you get to the second round and then he just gives out and now you're out of a backup point guard? So maybe it was just difficult for him to even find a roster spot on a contending team for that reason, and it makes sense. So yeah, a championship might be in his aspirations, but if there is not some significant turn of events, I don't see that happening in Detroit. Still love you though, D Rose. Oh, here's one. This should have been in the last podcast. Actually, yeah, you know, I can't remember if this bit of news came out before the last one or after it, but that is totally irrelevant. This is worth discussing. You all know the NBA uses the G League as basically test monkeys, lab rats, and I mean it's pretty cool because it's not comparable. It's not fully comparable to the NBA game, but there's a good grounds to test new things that you might want to implement in the NBA, and that's what they do every so often. So what they are doing now, they are testing the free throw rule that apparently comes from Ice Cube's Big 3 League, and it is kind of a take-all scenario. They're wanting to test out the effects of having the situation where you go to the free throw line, and regardless of the amount of points that you're searching for, you shoot one free throw. So if you get fouled on a layup, which is normally 2 shots, You're going to take one free throw, and either you're going to get those 2 points or you are not going to get those 2 points. You get fouled on a 3-pointer. You are either going to shoot one free throw and get those 3 points, or you're not going to get any of them. It is winner take all. Now, the one caveat to this is, at the end of games, it is the traditional rule, which, okay, I didn't know that at first, because I made a tweet about it at first, and I was like, get this the fuck out of here. Because I was saying, why would you have this at the end of a game where, let's say the score is 127 to 130, dude gets fouled on a 3-point shot, and now you take the pressure off of him of hitting 3 straight free throws. But whether you think that's more pressure or less pressure, it doesn't even matter, because in crunch time, I can't remember exactly how they defined it, maybe last 2 minutes or something, but you're going to have traditional rules. So you get fouled and you're down by 3, you got to hit all 3 of those. Thank God, because I really feel like that's more pressure. I really feel like that's more daunting to be at the free throw line for 3 straight free throws and having to knock all of them down. I feel like you're being let off the hook if you would have only had to shoot one of those free throws, because my argument was there's guys out there that can hit one free throw. If they get fouled, and that was the whole point of saying make them earn it at the line, make them go shoot 2 free throws instead of getting an easy layup under the basket. So if you're just shooting one, look, Lonzo Ball is probably more than happy to try to make 1 free throw, but if he were to get fouled on a 3 or something and you're asking him to make 3, I think he would rather just have to make 1, right? I don't know, but like I said, that is totally irrelevant, because crunch time, that does not apply to crunch time. Now, do I support it knowing that we're going to have traditional crunch time rules? No, I don't. If it's not broken, just don't fix it. Let the evolution of the game happen on the court. Kind of like throughout the 2010s, how the 3-point shot became more prominent, and now you have Harden introducing Euro step 3-pointers. Let the evolution of the game happen on the court. There's certain things about the game rules that don't really need to be touched. When the 14-second thing happened, like after you get a rebound and the shot clock only reset to 14, I didn't really like that at first. I don't think it's made too much of a difference now. Like, I've gotten so used to it, it just kind of is what it is. I didn't like that rule, but now with the free throws, it's like, all right, I think you're going in too deep. The rebounding was one thing, and were you taking away the value of an offensive board by only giving them 14 seconds? That was one thing by itself. Looking at free throws and throughout the game, you're going to be saying, okay, you're just going to be shooting 1 free throw at the line regardless. I just think that's just messing with too much, right? Just leave it the way it is. There's nothing wrong with the way it is right now. When you try to improve stuff and like there's absolutely nothing wrong with the current system, that just doesn't make sense. See, there was a reason for the shot clock back in the day when there was no shot clock. There was a reason. It's because people were stalling games. They were holding the ball, you know, you get to overtime and now the team just dribbles and passes around until the end. That was an obvious flaw in the game, and they fixed that. That made sense. Free throws, I've never seen a problem. The Hack-a-Shaq thing was a problem a couple years ago, right? And they alleviated that. That needed to be fixed. That was slowing the game down. People were using that shit in like the second quarter. Obviously, that was a very terrible system. That made the game like unwatchable. So good on them for that. But now it's like, okay, now you're just like trying to experiment. Cool, keep that in the G League. We don't need that here. So I think that's good for today for NBA news. We covered preseason. We covered rap battles. Rap battles in basketball. Y'all cannot tell me the NBA is not the best sport, right? Season didn't even started and Lillard has already barred somebody's life away. What other league do you get this unnecessary drama in? And yeah, we talked about a rule change, so I think that'll be good for basketball today. Of course, by next week we will have more preseason games, hopefully more things to evaluate, unless everybody's just going to sit out their star player for like the duration of preseason, in which case we probably won't have a ton to talk about. Moving on to games and anime, I'm going to do this section before I do anything else. Nothing much new with anime for me this week. The anime section, I noticed like that's going to be kind of difficult to do every single week, just because how much anime do I really watch in a week, or just shows in general, shonen anime, whatever. How much of that do I really watch in a week? Still watching Dragon Ball. That's gonna be like the thing for a while now. Getting through it, I'm on episode 9. I am enjoying it. Enjoying watching how Goku meets Chi-Chi, Master Roshi, how that whole gang gets together. Yeah, it's all awesome. But again, not trying to give little minor updates all the time. More so in gaming this week. That's gonna be heavier than anime. We've gotten more news on the PlayStation 5. Some really interesting stuff going on. The one that caught my eye was that, well, there's two things, right? They're saying that the PS5, first of all, apparently there was a leak saying that as far as console computing and the jump, this is going to be the biggest jump in consoles ever, is what they say right now. So the headline said the PS5 is going to be the biggest jump in console computing. So it's going to be bigger than it was from the PS3, or from the PS2 to the PS3, and from the PS3 to the PS4. This is supposed to be a bigger jump. And that really caught my eye, because I was, I just got done playing Red Dead. not really got done. I'm at the very end of the game. When I made that podcast last week, I had no clue there was an ending, like a whole 2 or 3 chapter ending with John Marston. I had no clue about that. So I'm still making my way through that. But anyways, my point was, Red Dead is one of those games I'm assuming probably pushes the PS4 as far as it, almost as far as it can go in terms of graphics and detail. And I was just like, wow, so wait, you're telling me the PS5 is about to jump even further than this? And I don't think necessarily by saying that it's going to be the biggest console computing jump, that means we're going to get like such different graphics. It's just hard to imagine that when I look at a game like Red Dead, because when you look closely at items in that game, when you get close-ups and you look at like the rocks or the dirt, then you see how there can be improvement, right? On another console with more computing power, the most minute details can definitely be pushed, because I think that's a place where game developers probably save resources, where they know that the player is not going to spend a whole time looking or staring at, so they can use more low-res images or low-res textures. Just from looking at things in video games, things that they don't really think you would look at, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. So on the PS5, sure, every single detail is probably going to be locked in, but let's be real, how much better can a game actually look in Red Dead? And don't get me wrong, there's times in Red Dead where the characters look a little bit questionable. There's scenes where, I don't know, I guess the lighting affects it, but then there's parts where you're out in the environment and you're like, I can't really see a game looking much better than this. Draw distance is probably going to improve, even though it seems like that is difficult. Look, it's just difficult at all to really, there's not a whole lot left to be desired in graphics after this generation, I feel. Some of the games that have come out, it's just hard for there to really be that much left. Just like how 2K has never really changed graphically on this generation. When you look at NBA 2K14, that's still in contention for being the best looking 2K. What really changed with 2K is not the overall look of the game. It's when you start looking at the players and the detail on their bodies, and that's what's really improved throughout the generation. But the look of the game itself, 20 doesn't look a world better than 19. 19 did not look a world better than 18. It looked different, but it didn't look a world better. So you saw that on this console, where like the graphic change from game to game for that, just it really wasn't huge. So going into this next console generation, I'm personally not really looking for how, well, of course I'm looking, right? I'm very excited to see what PS5 games look like, but that's not really where I expect the biggest difference to be. I'm thinking the biggest difference is probably going to be in AI and how many things can be on screen at one time. I think that's where the computing power will really matter the most. But it's hard to imagine, right? Because I'm just thinking back to my childhood, and graphic jumps have gotten smaller and smaller, as they should. When we left from the PS2 to the PS3, they just were not comparable at all. My first game on the PlayStation 3 was NBA 07, and that was a game where it's like they cared about the look of the game more than the actual gameplay. It was like they knew, hey, this is a new console with a ton of power, and of course HD TVs were becoming a thing, and they were saying, let's just make this game look as beautiful as possible. And that's kind of what they did. And so NBA 07 on the PS3 and NBA 07 on the PS2, they were in like different galaxies. And that's how it felt for much of the PS3 games. That was like the biggest thing that popped out at you when you were at GameStop or EB Games as a kid and you were looking at the PS3 display. And then even you saw a game like MotorStorm and you were like, man, I've never experienced anything like this in my life. These games just look so good. And then you went from PS3 to PS4, and on a game like 2K, you could really tell the difference. NBA 2K14, obviously they killed anything they had ever done on the previous consoles. But then there were other games where it was like, yeah, it's definitely a graphical jump, but it's not like it was going from 2 to 3. And so now you look at what games look like now, and a game like Detroit Become Human. Some of these worlds we've got have just gotten so detailed and look so good that, look, it's always impossible to imagine. I guess when you're in the moment, it's always impossible to imagine a game looking much better, right? When I was a kid, and I specifically remember the moment in my mind playing NBA 2K8, and I remember talking to my dad about it, and I was just like, Dad, I don't know how games are ever going to look any better. That was NBA 2K8, right? So here I am, what, 11 years later, and I'm making the same exact argument here. I'm like, I can't imagine games looking any better, when clearly they probably will. But there's always been that question of how far can we actually push graphics before we get into that photorealism realm, where how many more improvements can you actually make there? Like, I seriously question, I keep going back to Red Dead because that's one of the best looking games I ever played. I question how much better can you actually look than that in terms of a video game. And how much better will game developers really want a game to look? Because they obviously have to split resources between, the game's look and how it actually works and how it plays and how many things they can have running. So yeah, that makes this a very exciting time, because with these consoles pretty much right around the corner as far as we know, and now we're getting news, I'm really excited. It's just like watching The Last of Us 2 gameplay. I just watched some of that on YouTube. They had a good like 10 minutes of gameplay, and I'm looking at how that game looks. And you have that scene where Ellie is prone in the grass, and you're looking at the grass, and it's just like, damn, we have a whole nother console generation coming next year that's supposed to make this go obsolete, which probably won't happen immediately. I have no expectations of that at all. It's just, again, in these games today, it's just the details that you think can look better. Like in Red Dead, the only thing I looked at that looked suspect was fire. Whenever you're at a campfire and you're looking at the wood burning, that really didn't look great all the time. Again, certain cutscenes with the characters, they looked a little bit questionable. I brought that up earlier because there are certain cutscenes where it's like, wow, this doesn't look as good as anything else in the game. So there is room for improvement, but the room for improvement is going to continue to be smaller and smaller. That's just, I think that's natural. So yeah, that's why I think it was just interesting to hear that this was going to be the biggest jump. It makes me wonder about the cost of the next console. If this is going to be the biggest jump and we're already where we are, well damn. Then they talked about the console features. And supposedly, again, all of this is rumored, the companies are not going to confirm any of this. However, Xbox did deny it, but they were saying with both consoles, and mostly the PlayStation since they did not come out and deny it, there's going to be a focus on including a high quality camera with these consoles, basically so that people will kind of have a streaming kit. So when these consoles ship, they want people to, I guess they're trying to expand accessibility for streaming. And look, this isn't something I care about at all, simply because just for me personally, I already have a streaming setup, it's on my computer. But I wonder about a feature like this because it's kind of like how the PS4, when they released it, they wanted to make it more of a social platform. So they put a HD PVR inside the PlayStation and Xbox so that you could actually record some gameplay, and they had the option to share it straight to Facebook, straight to Twitter, even straight to YouTube. Now, there was instances where a screenshot would be cool for me to share to Twitter. There were instances even where I could just share a clip really quick to Twitter. But a couple of things there. First of all, the quality was always shittier than you would get from actually having your own Elgato or something like that, something to capture your gameplay. But of course, that is just probably to keep the cost down. But certain things like that, I just never understood why I would want to share something off my PS4 straight to YouTube. That seems like a feature that's more enticing to a kid who, just started his YouTube channel and doesn't really have any kind of infrastructure to run a channel other ways, so they just kind of share clips of them doing dope stuff on a game straight to their channel. But for somebody who's actually running a channel, you would want to edit it first, you would want to make everything more crisp, and you can't just do that straight from your console. So with the PS4, if these are true that they're trying to include things to really make it streaming friendly, well, that has, I hope that's not taking up like most of their resources, and I hope that's not most of their focus, because for a lot of us who are really trying to do that type of stuff, a console is never going to provide enough. Not at a good price point anyways. I'm never just going, it just reminds me of how they did with the PS4 with the whole sharing tool. That's just what it reminds me of. Like, when I got it, I'm like, why would I want to share this to Facebook? Like, I have friends and things from high school from Facebook. Why do I want to share them my clip of NBA 2K? I don't. I guess if I ran a Facebook gaming page, which again, it's not really a thing, but yeah, if I did that, then I could kind of see it. But even then, I would want better quality on my clips, so I'm still going to take that and cut it up in my computer. And so long story short, I'm just drawing the comparison between that and what they might be trying to do with streaming on these consoles. And even if I ever get back into streaming, it's just going to be from my desktop. I'm not really trying to use whatever comes with the console. But if that's just a small feature they're including to make it more accessible, then whatever, I guess. We also have the prospect of gaming going completely digital in this next generation, and I think that's an interesting topic because clearly there are two separate generation of gamers going on right now. There's a generation that really wants their physical copies and loves their physical copies and maybe even still enjoys going into GameStop and whatnot. And then there is that generation of people who are like, why would you ever own a physical copy of a game? And I experienced some of that when NBA 2K20 came out, and I made some tweet about it, and somebody was like, imagine buying a physical copy, and I'm like, well, fucktard, it's for the case art. Like, how is that how is that a difficult thing to understand? But then I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, well, this could be somebody that's easily 10 years younger than me, and then it would make sense because they've come up in this era of being able to get games instantly straight to the PS4, and that's kind of been like their introduction to gaming. And so I get it, because I've downloaded a couple of digital games. I've downloaded Rainbow Six because they had it on a good deal and I just happened to run across it, so I wanted that immediately. The Batman game, and oh, The Last of Us, thank God. You know, in the last podcast I was just saying how I never got to play The Last of Us, and I looked in the comment section just yesterday and people were telling me all about how it was going to be free in the PlayStation Store for October. I already had it by that point though. I saw Neil Druckmann tweet it, and I was like, yes, I am going to get to experience The Last of Us remastered on PS4 for free, because I was never going to go back and spend money on that game. I just wasn't. But the fact they just laid it in my lap, basically, that's just funny that happened after I was talking about it on the pod. So that is a great free game. That's thumbs up to PlayStation Plus. Lately they've got good games. I've never cared about the PlayStation Plus offers. They're usually games I would never play, but now I've just caught Batman and The Last of Us. I think those are going to be two quality games. But anyways, yeah, so The Last of Us is a digital game I got. So yes, I obviously see the benefit of digital games, but I guess it's just what era you grew up in. For me personally, I want the cases of as many games as possible. I just do. I like the case art. I like having this shelf behind me with all my games. You don't understand how much I've kept throughout my life. I have GameCube games in my apartment. I have PS2 games, PS3 games. Cases are just a thing that I came up with, and that does not, make no mistake, right? That does not mean I don't understand where this is going and where gaming is going. I don't think the next consoles, because that's a question somebody directly asked me, I don't think the next consoles are going to ship without a disc tray, because I'm sitting back imagining how much it would have to cost because of the hard drive in that thing. Think about it, games are huge right now. If you're going to make it, first of all, I just don't think we're ready for all digital yet. There's still some people out here with potato internet. Lightning fast internet speeds are not just a common thing amongst everybody yet. Some people are still out here downloading, you know, an update for 2K takes them like a long time. So if every game is going to be digital right off the bat next year, I think that's a giant step from where we are right now. I think digital right now is convenient for some people and highly convenient for others. The way my internet works, I'd be just fine, because like internet in my place is like, it's as essential as food and water. So I got here and I was like, yeah, give me the best you got. I don't care if it's overkill. Give me the best that you have. So my stuff downloads lightning fast. I'd be okay, but I understand there's people that a 20 gigabyte patch pisses them off because they gotta wait some time. So I just don't see us going from there in October of 2019 to 2020. There's just no more physical copies of games, no games on shelves in Best Buy. I just don't see that yet. But I do understand with the advancement of technology and everything, it's coming and we can't stop it. One day I'm not going to be able to own these pretty cases. NBA 2K20, that is the best case I think in probably 2K history. The Dwayne Wade Legend cover, the shit is awesome and I love it. And I have like a little cover that goes on it too, that's kind of like the words pop out and everything so you can actually feel it. It's awesome, but I understand that that is a dying thing and it's something that people don't necessarily care about. When 2K was dropping, people were already downloading it like before it was gonna come out, before it was slated to come out. So as soon as the clock struck a certain time, they were able to just start it right there. There's just many advantages of digital gaming, and the generation that's coming up is hooked on it. So throughout this console generation, yeah, we probably will see iterations of these consoles that don't have any disc trays. Like I know right now there's an Xbox that just dropped that doesn't have a disc tray at all, so people can just straight download their games. I don't know why you would want to buy it. I just don't really see the reason to go out of your way this late to buy one like that. I'm not really sure who that is targeting, but the hard drives. The hard drives were a problem when the PS4s and the Xbox One dropped, because what did the PS4 hard drive come with? It came with 500 gigabytes, right? That was the OG. So okay, that dropped and I had the OG. I got it on the first night it came out. And that didn't even take more than a few months to become a problem. You got a couple of games, and these were disc-based games, right, that have to install, but still the digital versions are still bigger. But the disc-based versions themselves, that was already causing the problem on the 500 gigabyte hard drives that released with the original iterations of the console. Still today, I know people who are probably dealing with that, where they have to delete one game every time they get a new one. For me, I got tired of that. I went and bought a big hard drive, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with this at all. Like this is not what it's about to be. But so if we're gonna go fully digital, that's the other thing. And especially if they were going to start next console generation with that, how many terabytes do you think a hard drive would need for it to be acceptable? And then, you know, with them, they released an undersized hard drive on the original PS4s, so if they released an undersized hard drive for these, now people gotta go out and buy big terabyte hard drives to hook up to the front or back of it, just so they can hold all their digital games. Yeah, no thank you, not yet, man, not yet. because I know those hard drives are not going to be big enough. They're going to have to be massive. But nevertheless, there is no doubt in my mind that we will get there. By the time we're in 2026 and we're talking about if there's going to be any more consoles after that, if there's going to be like PlayStation 6 or whatever, and Xbox 1080, whatever there's going to be in the future, by then, yeah, I do think that the discs are promptly on their way out. You got places like GameStop going out of business, which is something that really only affects my generation, because I know people, they hate the way GameStop, their business practices, with how they feel that they've been ripped off for trading off their games or trading in their games, and people are pretty happy to see GameStop go out of business, actually. But for someone like me who grew up walking into these stores and who still goes to my local GameStop, I still go to my local GameStop, and I love the experience. I like the experience, but clearly that will not be a thing throughout the 2020s. Hey man, just gotta change with the times. Consoles will eventually be digital. Apparently, some of them are going to be focused on streaming. I did see in another video the Xbox people said that that's actually not a thing that they're focusing on with the camera and the streams or whatever. But who actually knows, right? Who actually knows? So I think that's going to be all for today's podcast. The Kings and the Pacers are about to play. Let's see how long it takes before the third stringers are on the court. If you enjoyed this week's podcast, make sure to hit the like button, comment, and sub. And also remember that if it is easier for you to digest podcasts on iTunes or Spotify, we are there as well, and that is in the link in the comment section and the description. Hit the bell next to the channel name if you want notifications when the podcast drops every Saturday, and I will see you all next week.